is Ina Halili. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions here at the Drexel University Kline School of Law. I'm so happy you could all make it tonight for our information session on the two-year JD program. So tonight we will hear from Teresa Gallo, who is our Assistant Dean of Academic and Student Services, Liz Dunn, our Senior Director of Career Strategies, and a few of our students who will introduce themselves later who are currently in the two-year JD program.
Thank you, Ina. Hi, everybody. So glad to see everybody here who's interested in the two-year program. As Ina said, my name is Teresa Gallo. I'm the Assistant Dean of Academic and Student Services. What that means functionally is that I handle the course scheduling, exams, grading, all the academic stuff, including helping with course advising and your course plan. So if you're in the two-year program, and actually if you're in any program. So I'm going to start by asking Ina to share the plan of study that's on the website. And so you can find this on drexel.edu/Kline. And the two-year program, the basic difference between the two-year and the three-year program is that you're still doing 85 credits, which is the total needed for the degree. You're still doing 6 semesters, but what you're doing is you're going straight through for 6 semesters. So rather than start in the fall and do fall, spring, fall, spring, fall, spring, and take like a break over the summer, what the two-year program does is it starts in the summer and then goes straight through for 6 semesters until the following spring, the next year. And then you can see that the average that you take over the semesters is 15 or 16 credits in the fall and the spring. The way that that differs from the three-year program is the average for the three-year program is 14 credits per semester. So it's only really just a little bit more than you would take in the three-year program, plus needing to take credits in that summer. So obviously, as you can see, you can still take full advantage of our co-op, and you're required to take advantage of our co-op program. You don't have to do a co-op in the summer. If you scroll down, you can do a co-op over the year and just take classes in the summer. We offer plenty of course offerings in the summer because we know that our accelerated students need to have those credits. So there's plenty of ways that you can structure this. So in addition to the co-op program, which is why most of you probably are looking at Drexel, and that's the biggest feature of this program, you also are able to take advantage of all of the opportunities of the JD program, including the concentrations. We have 5 concentrations: business and entrepreneurial law, health law, litigation and alternate dispute resolution. I'm going to forget stuff: intellectual property law, and what am I forgetting? I know I'm forgetting one. Business, IP, health. I lost it.
Civil litigation, I think.
What was it?
I think criminal and civil litigation.
Criminal law. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. All right, that's a big one. So, all right, so that's the 5 concentrations, and you can totally do those as well as our clinicals. We have year-long clinics, and the criminal clinic is really the only one that you need to plan very specifically for. Otherwise, the clinics are also fully available to you. The difference between a co-op and a clinic is the co-op, you are doing supervised work at a field placement. You're getting delegated work from the attorneys. The clinic, you have your own clients and you're working still under the supervision of attorney, but you're working more directly with the clients, and it's year-long versus 1 semester. So you can take full advantage of that. We also have a number of co-curriculars: law review, which is typical, trial team, moot court, and the alternate dispute resolution team. And you, again, can join any of those. The timing, because you can only be on most of those teams for 1 year, including the law review, there is some limitation on holding leadership positions on those co-curriculars, but you are completely, they are completely available to you to join and participate. I think that's about what I had to say, because really the two-year program and three-year program are very, very similar in terms of opportunities. You just have to be a little bit more deliberate about the way that you're planning things out, and just make sure that you're working with an advisor, which you are assigned a specific AJD advisor. And you can always talk to me, and just make sure that you are planning for what you need in terms of prerequisites, in terms of making sure that you are, if you want to pursue a concentration as well as a clinic, that you have the space in your plan of study. And just working really closely. That's really the big difference, is making sure that you're planning ahead, and we're here for you to do that.
All right, well, I can start talking about some of the career planning piece and the way that the Career Strategies Office works with our AJD students. For the, I work in the Career Strategies Office. The AJD students have generally had a career advisor that's specifically assigned to work with the AJD students who are coming through the program. And in most ways, the way that we work with AJD students is the same way we work with all of the 3-year law students in the program. There are a couple of differences. When you look at employment stats, I went back just to make sure, and our employment stats after graduation for our AJD students have generally been right in line with our 3L JD traditional students. So the employment stats that are on the website are accurate for our AJD students as well. In the past year, our AJD students actually had 100% employment rate, and our overall was 88%. So they're both great, and that means 1 or 2 students, but I'm just proud of our AJDs because 100% employment is fantastic. So the major differences for our AJD students, and I want our students who are currently in the program to jump in on this because they're the experts. But the major difference for us is that most AJD students do a co-op during the summer that they're here at law school. So the CSO office in a traditional 3-year program, our first interaction would be planning for that 1L summer and helping you apply and find ways to apply for the 1L summer. Because the co-op works through the experiential learning office at Drexel, and because there's a lot of matching that happens, CSO is not going to work with you in the same way, but we're still there to help you prep for interviews. And we're there to help you make decisions about co-op. So we'll help you say, when you graduate, this is what I want to end up at the Defender Association. What kind of co-op should I be looking at? Or I know I want to go into tax law. How should I be balancing the clinics I take with doing co-op? And we can walk you through all of that. So we'll help you in planning that way. During the first summer that you're here, we want you to be focused mostly on getting that foundation of law. So the CSO will meet with you usually toward the middle to end of the summer, depending on your class and the needs there. We'll meet and do an introduction, an overview, make sure that you know us and that you can reach out to us individually if something comes up for you. That most of our JD students do a co-op, and then they're applying for postgraduate jobs at that point, going into their second year in the same way that our rising 3Ls would. So they're applying for clerkships and government jobs and working with small and medium firms and sometimes large firms as well. 2 of the other places where we see a difference for our AJD students are for our large firm hiring. It's different this year because COVID has affected the timeline for hiring, but generally hiring for your 2L summer in law school starts during your 1L summer. So large firms interview students during their 1L summer, make them an offer to come work with a large law firm in the 2L summer. That 2L summer is basically a 10-week job interview. And then if the firm is in a place and likes your work and in a place to make an offer, they might extend you a postgraduate offer, or usually would extend you a postgraduate offer. So for our AJD students, in that time, that first summer, you won't have the grades that those employers are looking for. And so you couldn't be a part of that OCI. So some students who wanted to work with large firms, we've had to move some things around there so that they can do the co-op, and they're off that OCI interview schedule. That is for only a small number of employers that affects. The other program that is affected is that there are diversity and inclusion programs, opportunities that are intended for a 1L summer. For many of those programs, there are unbelievable opportunities. If you're in the AJD program and you apply to those programs, some of them will say that you do need to decelerate to take advantage of it because you have to have that second summer, again, to work with this type of large firm employer. But having said that, those are really 2 of the only employment opportunities that are affected by being in the AJD program. Unless the students want to jump in and tell me anything that I'm forgetting about that. Otherwise, the timeline looks very much the same, and the application process is very much the same. During the fall semester, your first fall semester with us, AJDs will be in a professional fundamentals program that CSO works in collaboration with the experiential learning office and student services and our dive-in committee, and we take you through the resume and cover letter drafting, the technical pieces. There's also a lot about listening skills and figuring out what your strengths are and how you want to gear your career and knowing what you want when you go out. We also talk about diversity and inclusion and those skills, and take you through that fall programming. And then we have public interest and public service job fairs our AJDs participate in. We have on-campus interviewing in the spring. Students are invited to participate. Lots of off-site programming, job fairs that we do with other schools And also just a lot of one-on-one meeting and advocacy. Because Drexel is a small law school, we have the opportunity to really know our students. So everyone on the panel today are students I know and recognize, have met with probably in the past 6 months or 3 months. And we have that kind of relationship. That's one of the best things that you can do when you're in the program, is to stay in touch with our office and let us know how we can coach you. We have mock interview programs generally during your 1L year, and we're also happy to meet with you one-on-one when you have an interview or you have a question or you're negotiating an offer. All of that we're there to help you with. So that's the way that our office generally works. All right, great. Then I'm going to ask our student panel to kick off. Brittany Cruz, could you start us off on each of our students to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about either leadership positions you've had in school or some of the work that you've done while you've been at Drexel?
Hi, everyone. I'm a 3L now. My name is Brittany. During my 2 years at Drexel, I'm pursuing a concentration in healthcare law. And in my spare time, I'm involved in certain extracurriculars, such as the law review. I'm a staff editor. I'm the vice president of the Women's Law Society, and I'm a law school ambassador. So law review basically is a huge journal that you'll be working on throughout the year. So you'll be both editing journal entries, and throughout the year, you're going to be writing a note, which is basically a critique on law or a proposal of certain law and what direction you think the law should be going based on a certain issue. It's very it's a lot of work, but I'm really passionate about writing, and I have some ideas that I would like to put on ink. So I'm really excited about it. So I actually found Drexel Law kind of by accident. I originally visited the campus and passed by the law school when I was touring the school for my younger brother. But after that, I was very impressed. But the one thing that caught my eye when I was touring for my brother was the signs that I kept seeing saying, "Ambition can't wait." And I think that speaks to who I am as a person. I graduated college early. So I have that, go get it done attitude. And, during college, I interned at a law firm. So I had that experience, and I also knew 100% that I wanted to be an attorney. So I was like, you know what, let me just go get it done. This is what I want to do. And it's less time than a 3-year program. So I'm very happy with my decision.
So I'm also in the accelerated program, as we all are. And I was a teacher before coming to law school. So I did the 2-year program because it's 2 years without a salary instead of 3. And I've been able to do a lot of different internships along with a co-op in different education law capacities. One thing that I'll put a plug for, and I think Kevin's in it this year too, is the Marshall Brennan Constitutional Literacy Program. So this year we get to go in, well, not go into schools because it's all virtual, but teach Philadelphia school high schoolers about their constitutional rights and also coach them with moot court. So that's something I'm super excited about. And then I'm also in the co-curricular of the Alternative Dispute Resolution team. So unlike the other co-curriculars, I was actually able to participate during my first spring semester, because I was technically a 2L by then. So because I was able to participate in that, I was actually able to apply, and I'm on a leadership. I'm in the executive board for that this year. And so that has 4 different competitions, all about like mediation and negotiation. And so that's a cool co-curricular that doesn't get a whole lot of attention, but it's really fun.
I'm currently on the trial team. That takes up a bulk of my time and what I do. I'm a big fan of it. I'm also in Marshall Brennan with Brittany, and it's a ton of fun. It's really cool to get to teach high schoolers about constitutional law, and that's kind of what motivated me to even think about going into law. And then Drexel, I specifically chose Drexel because of their trial program. They have a very impressive trial team. We win often. I just came in second 2 weeks ago in the country and first in the East Coast at the Summit Come competition, which was a ton of fun. Highly recommend you guys get involved in that. And I'm also in the civil litigation and dispute resolution concentration, which is, I want to do plaintiff's personal injury. So right up my alley, and it gives me the opportunity to take a ton of classes that are very practical at this point, and really teach you what to do once you're outside of law school and in a courtroom, which is really cool. That's been a great experience. So once I finished college, I started as a paralegal for a year. I was technically working there while I was still in college. So I was a paralegal for 2 years, and I had realized that I kind of had the background information on the law. As a paralegal, you do a lot of what a lawyer does. You write motions, complaints, discovery. And I figured the 3-year course seemed a little extensive since I had gone to undergrad for paralegal studies. And then on top of that was a paralegal for 2 years. And then at that point I was like, all right, I feel like I could get this done a little bit quicker. So I chose the 2-year program because I felt like I could take on that extra challenge. And it is an extra challenge. It is definitely, you need stamina for it. But I felt like I could take on the extra challenge, and that it would be worth it. And hey, so far it has been.
Brittany Halpern, I have a similar but slightly different question for you. I think we see many AJDs who, like you, might come in and have found an area that they love, right? Education, but found that, maybe being a teacher, they weren't being able to affect things the way they wanted, or it wasn't building on their strengths. And can you talk about why you chose the AJD program and whether that's been a good fit for you, staying, with the focus in education?
Yeah. So education is definitely a very niche part of the law. But I chose it specifically. I chose the HAD program because I also have that like go-getter kind of thing. I also 2 years instead of 3 without a salary, which is good because I'm married. So a lot of people in our class are married or have kids and stuff. And so it's just a little, although it's a lot to do all at once, I've found that that's just a little bit easier with family life. But when it comes to education law, I knew that I wanted to do that. And so I actually reached out to the career strategies office my first semester. I know they say to wait, but I was like, I need something more than these 4 walls of this building, and I needed to get into education law. So I spoke with them and I was able to get an internship for my first fall semester with the School District of Philadelphia. And that kind of helped continue motivate me to do the 2-year program, because I was like, okay, this is what I really like to do. And Drexel has the resources to really put you into those kind of experiences right away. And so I've gotten quite a bit of internships and my co-op and stuff through the career strategies office. So that's been really nice.
Great, thanks, Brittany. Kevin, Brittany mentioned the schedule, and I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how, if the schedule has been manageable and what your day looks like or what your timeline looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's the only way to answer this question is to break it up by semester. And first semester as an AJD, it will be very, very intense. And you should absolutely go into this with the mindset that you are going to grind and work hard and dedicate almost all of your time to law school for the first semester. And once you attend orientation, D-Notes is going to tell you that you're currently inefficient at law school and that you will become efficient at law school. It is so true. I had no idea what he was talking about at the time. It's completely true. Your first semester really is, for me at least, I really tried to give it my all. And I was waking up at around 6 a.m. Doing work. And then I usually left the library at around 9 p.m. And obviously no human being is capable of going that many hours straight doing only work. There was time involved where I was socializing, talking to classmates, getting to know your friends and everything. But it's absolutely a grind. And the time commitment is there. You have to dedicate yourself to it. After first semester though, you become very quickly more efficient at law school. By the time you're a 2L, by your third semester, you're going to have this feeling of like, oh, well, what do I do with all my time now? I could do things. I joined trial team. It was just one of those things where as you go, your time opens up. But if you're currently trying to schedule your life and trying to figure out what law school is going to look like, anticipate your first semester and possibly your second semester being law school. That is going to be your life. And then after that semesters, you're going to get your life back, and you might choose to invest your life in more law school activities, just like some of us did.
I'm going to open this to the whole panel. If there's one piece of advice you could give yourself when you were starting law school or making this decision, what would that be?
I'll start off. So I was actually in a speaker event last week, and the speaker gave some great advice that I want to pass on to all of you, because I wish that I would have focused on that. So I couldn't agree with what Kevin said. That first semester was literally, you were grinding it out every single day, and I too had the same late nights and woke up extra early to finish it, because no amount of time was helping. But anyways, I finished it, I got through it, and here I am now. But what the one speaker said was, to make sure you have a hobby, because it's going to be so focused on law, and you're going to go do law school for so many hours of the day. Even that first semester, when you might not have all that time, you still maybe take a couple 2 hours, 3 hours a week to just do something that makes you happy and it's for you, and that way you have some balance to your week and through your semester.
Life threw me a lot of curveballs during my first year of law school, and so I didn't have quite the amount of time that my peers did, and I realized after that, it's okay. I still did it. I'm still here. And so especially people with families and stuff, that might have extra responsibilities, give yourself a little bit of a break, is what I realized. Cause I was like, oh my gosh, these people have been Kevin, was studying from 6 to 9. I could only get there from 6. And then I had to be home at 5 and different things like that. So give yourself a little bit of grace, know that it's okay. And I agree with Brittany's of take a little break, whether it's going on a walk, gardening, cooking, whatever it is. And just give yourself some grace. If you don't feel like you're fitting in, everybody kind of feels that way.
I guess if I could go back and give myself a piece of advice before I came to law school, it would be to write down my passion, or what exactly is driving me to go to law school. Getting closer to the end of the first semester, I quickly found that I was just questioning myself. I was like, why did I come to law school? Why did I sign up for this? My life is now studying. And I think it's really important to remember what exactly is driving you to come here. I mean, you guys all took the LSAT. You're taking those affirmative steps. That's not easy. Those are pretty intense tests. People study for months for that. There's something, whatever it is that is driving you, write it down, because you're going to get to a point where you're wondering again, why am I here? I gave up my salary to be a debt. And you're going to have that with you, and you'll remember why, what is driving you, and you'll get through it. There's some tough times, but there's a reason why you have to go through law school to be a lawyer, and why it pays pretty well.
Could one of you talk about either, a clinic or a co-op experience and what that gave you?
I would love to quickly talk on that. Over the summer, I worked at the Beasley firm. I had my co-op there. It's a plaintiff's personal injury and medical malpractice firm. Oddly enough, that's what I'm passionate about. Some people call me an ambulance chaser. It's just what I like to eat. So my experience in co-op was incredible. It was at the height of the pandemic. It was definitely not a good situation. I know, at least for us AJDs, we were all pretty down. Everyone was like, oh, what are we going to do? There is a global pandemic right now messing everything up, and we have to do co-op. So I got super lucky. The co-op office is incredible. They really work with you. They got me placed and Beasley's a very well-known firm in Philadelphia. And I had a wonderful supervisor. He would take me to depositions. I would sit right next to him. And I think the part is that at least for me, my opinion actually mattered, which was cool. It didn't feel like a normal internship where I was given paperwork and I sat behind a desk and I did the paperwork. It was this experience where I was actually side by side with my attorney, and it was like I was his co-counsel. When he had a case, he asked me for my opinion, what legal theories I thought applied. what I thought was the right questions to ask during the deposition. During some depositions, he even asked me if I wanted to ask questions, which I was not prepared for at the time. However, I guess the point is, this co-op experience, it's different than an internship, and definitely different than anything you did in undergrad. You're not just getting work done, you're actually experiencing what this career will look like, and you're actually getting to live the career for a semester. And it's incredible. It's a great experience. I really enjoyed co-op.
I'd just like to add that you, as an AJD, you have to be very direct about the co-op experience that you want kind of right away. And so, especially if you kind of want to create your own. So I created my own through the resources of the Career Strategies Office instead of the experiential learning like co-op office through different networking events that they hosted. So I did mine with the Department of Education and the Office of Civil Rights in Philadelphia, which I met at like a GPALS networking event that the Career Strategies Office put on. So it's okay to like branch out of that, but you just have to be, as an AJD, you have to be very like direct and kind of go for that and what you want pretty quickly in the program.
I don't have too much to add. I was also at the Beasley firm with Kevin, so it was great to run into an AJD pal over the summer. Like Kevin said, it was a great experience. I love that my opinion mattered and that it was respected, and it was like, it was important, and I really love that. And sort of jumping back to what Brittany said about, planning and being direct, I definitely started planning for my co-op and trying to figure out which co-op I wanted a little bit early, but I think that was good. I started planning for that in the beginning of the spring semester. I was meeting with Professor Paramith like twice. So that was really helpful because, based on what I wanted, she was able to help me figure out which co-ops would be the best to accomplish my goals.
Great. There was a question a bit back about students who are looking on the West Coast and how we help them with that piece. And we put a link in for that a CSO panel talking about looking outside of the Philadelphia area. But I just wanted to highlight also, we have, students who are looking outside, and just in the past week, we've had students interviewing with the Washington AG's office in the state of Washington on the West Coast, and students interviewing with, doing some compliance work in Silicon Valley. And I was, talking also with a defender in California about a student who is potentially coming out there for a summer. So that's just in the past week or two. So if students are interested, we help them explore those markets. We have a lot of contacts. We also have great relationships with the law schools on the West Coast, and we're willing to help each other out in utilizing the information we have about those markets.
Someone asked about the age range of the students in the AJD program. I think we have non-traditional students in both the 2-year and the 3-year program, but I think we get a really good mix in the 2-year program of people going straight through and people who are career changers, and obviously they're attracted to the 2-year program because it is 1 year fewer without closer to the salary, getting a salary again. So we do have a good amount of career changers. These guys' young faces are deceptive, so you can't see their older students, but we definitely have them.
Anything else our panelists want to share with students they think that people should definitely know who are exploring the AJD program?
I have one thing that I would like to share. They say that law school students are very hungry. You have to have hunger to be able to get through law school. If you want to do the AJD program, you better be starving. You got to want it, because there is a lot of energy that you are going to be putting in, and you need to have passion for this. If you're thinking, I'm not sure if law school is right for me, you should probably go the traditional route. Go the 3-year. There's no need to rush through it. But if you know this is what you want to do and you're hungry, go for it. It's definitely a very rewarding experience, and having a smaller class size is probably one of the biggest benefits I could think of for the AJD program, because I can't stress enough how great it is to have 20 close classmates that you could rely on, that you can reach out to at any point at all. Most class sizes are 130 people. Out of 130 people, you're not going to get on a personal level with all of them. I might be wrong, by the way. Someone correct me if I'm wrong about the class size. However, with the AJD class size, you really do get to personally know your class on a deeper level, and you form these really strong connections. And those connections vary because AJDs come from everywhere. I have friends in Delaware who are AJDs. And now I have connections out in Delaware, friends in Arizona who are AJDs, connections out in Arizona. It really gives you this stronger form of friendship with the kids that you're going through the hustle and bustle with. So definitely, if you're hungry, I couldn't stress that the AJD program is wonderful enough.
We just had a question also about when did you know what area of law you wanted to study and whether the program helped you figure that out?
I actually came into law school in between two areas of law. So I was interested in business, corporate law, or health. So as you said, like that first year, your classes are kind of, picked out for you. So I really took advantage of the first semester, the spring semester, when I got to pick more of my own classes. So what I did was I took business law, and then I took health law 2, which is about quality, or it's about regulation. So I figured, okay, I'm going to get a taste, and then based on that, I'll have a better idea of what I like. So based on that, I ultimately decided health, but I really am finding myself more and more interested on where health and business intersect. So at the end of the day, that business law class was extremely helpful, and I find myself returning back to those principles all the time.
I want to bounce off of that for a second, because one of the things I really like about the co-op program, and like just aside from the fact, obviously, that's great hands-on experience, is that if you end up with 10 weeks of something that it turns out that you really didn't want to do, at least you figured that out now and not once you got that first job. So, people are always really concerned about the co-op and getting the experience in law school, but I'm like, hey, even a bad experience is something that you can learn from, and you learn it early.
And that's something the career office spends a lot of time walking through students through as well. So if you're not sure, and you can say, this is something I liked this course, and I liked this part of my summer. And we help you figure out where those skills meet and where there's some of the employers or types of practice that you can pursue and talk to people and, and get some experience there.
I'd like to add one more plug about the HAD program. Like Kevin said, you become friends very quickly. And one thing that I was kind of nervous about with law school, especially being a career changer, was the competitiveness of law school. I had heard horror stories of people like ripping pages out of books at libraries and things like that. And I was really nervous for it because I learned best by talking with people and collaborating. And Drexel is the place to do that, whether it's through the AJD program or for the 3-year. It really is like a collaborative learning environment, not competitive, because you're kind of rooting for everyone to do well. You're like, okay, we can all do this, so let's all do this together kind of thing. And so that's one thing that I really enjoy about Drexel, and one reason why I chose this program.
We've got a question about what the typical class schedule is like.
So the typical class schedule, like I said, you start, the 2-year program starts in the summer, and you take your typical first-year load of courses that you would take if you started in the fall. It's just spread out a little bit differently. So you have a required, I don't know if we were talking about layout or if we're talking about times of day, I'll address both, but you have a set schedule for that first summer and that first fall. And then in the spring, which is the 3rd term, you take the one remaining required course that you have, and then you can take electives with the rest of the credits that you have. Because this is a full-time program, we tend to schedule like all the required stuff during the day. So generally you're looking at like, it's a little different this year just because of the way that we have to schedule face-to-face classes with distancing capacity and stuff like that. But generally you're looking at like 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. If you want to take advantage of other opportunities, you might be staying later to go to events or to do trial team practice and things like that. That's basically what you're looking at. And then we do have some elective courses that are offered at night once you can choose your own courses. And then obviously that's for you to make your own schedule, but we generally won't have requirements like only offered at night or anything like that if anyone's worried about that type of thing.
I have a question of what's the average amount of work experience that students have coming into the AJD program. And as Teresa mentioned, we have a lot of students who come into the AJD program who don't have any work experience. They're coming directly from undergrad. And in terms of employment, that's, that's not an issue. A lot of employers in the legal world are used to students coming straight from undergrad, so they aren't necessarily looking for a real depth of experience in that area. If it is, you're looking for a switch to career or to build on the career that you've had, then that's an asset. And we certainly have people who have done that, and that the CSO would work with you on how to promote that and connect with employers in a way that's impactful. But lots of students come without any work experience or any professional work experience. Most people have had, some working as a server or retail or something like that.
So there's a question about the bar passage rates being, so this is one of the things that we learned about the AJD program in our first graduating AJD class. Unfortunately, underperformed on the bar. We took a look at all of the factors, and it looks like actually what had happened was because we have people who are very interested in getting back into the workforce, it seemed like they were spending less time on bar study and more time on work in that first summer, after that first graduating class. So that was a little disappointing for us. We identified that and we worked on it. The next graduating class, AJD is 100% bar pass rate. So it was just, unfortunately, that was something that we had to learn and that we had to be more specific in advising. To be honest with you, I haven't disaggregated them since that second graduating class, but I'm pretty sure they're about on par. We've not seen anything like that underperformance since then, and we've been very deliberate about targeting that.
If we don't have any other questions, I want to thank our student panelists so much for your time and for your great answers, and thank all of you for being here. Is there